Okay, this lesson is going to focus on writing equations of quadratic functions from its graph. Now, as we do this, let's review a couple of things. So first, all right, we're going to write all of our equations in vertex form. Part of the reason we're going to do this is the vertex is usually a very obvious point to see on a graph. All right. The other thing is that it allows us algebraically to solve for only one other part of the equation, which is the a value. All right, if we have another point on the curve. All right. So now what we're going to do is identify the vertex first. All right. Find another point on the curve, and then we're going to plug this information into our general vertex form equation to solve for that a value. So let's look at an example here. All right. Let me pull up my screen here. Here we go. All right, so notice when we work this problem, all right, that the first thing that we're going to find is our HK or our vertex. And so if we go down here, we can see that that point is very obvious. It's 2, -7. All right, so that's our vertex. So if I'm writing this equation, immediately I can plug in x minus 2 squared minus 7. All right, so really we have a lot of the equation already completed just by being able to identify this vertex graphically. The only piece that we need now is this a value. Now to do this, we're going to solve for it algebraically. And what we're going to do is find a good point on the curve, all right, a corner point. So if I look here, notice that our quadratic also goes through the point, all right, 3, -5. Now what we're going to do is take this point and plug it in, all right, for the x and y in our general form here and solve for a. So my y value is -5, so that's going to go here. All right, we have a. All right, and then our x value is 3, so that's 3 minus 2 squared minus 7. And so this leaves us, all right, a nice equation that we should be able to solve fairly easily. All right, so now -5 here. I'm going to simplify my parentheses. 3 minus 2 is 1. Okay, now I'm going to do my exponent. 1 squared is 1, so I end up with 1a minus 7. So notice by the time we simplify inside the parenthesis and square that number, we end with a simple linear equation. So I'm going to add 7 to both sides. So I get 2 is equal to a. And so that's the missing piece of our puzzle. So now I can come up here, plug in for a, and I have my full equation for this quadratic function. All right, so now based on that, I'm going to go ahead and let you do an example. All right, so what I'd like you to do is find the equation of the quadratic that is graphed here. Now I will give you a little hint. Notice right away we know this opens down, so you should know that your a value that you solve for will in fact be negative. All right, so go ahead and do the work, pause the video, and then turn it back on to see how you did. All right, so let's look at what you should have had. All right, so here is the answer, all right, to the equation. So you should be able to find that -4, 1 is your vertex. Now remember, we are subtracting that x value here, so that's why we get a positive here. And if you do all the algebra, you should have come up with -3 for your a value. All right, so now let me do another one with you here. Okay, so right away, so y equals a, and then I'm going to come down here and find my vertex. So this is -1, 1, or excuse me, -1, -1. All right, so that's my vertex. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and plug that in. Now remember, it's x minus -1, so let's become +1, and then squared, and then -1. All right, so now to solve for our a value, we just need to identify another good corner point. All right, so if I come through here, let's find, it looks like a good corner point would be 1, -4. All right, so 1, -4. So I'm going to plug that in. So -4 is my y value. 1 is my x value. All right, so we see this. So -1 equals a, and then this is 2, and then squared. Now 2 squared is 4, and I'm just going to write that in front of the variable because that's how we're used to seeing it. Add 1. So I get -3 is equal to 4a, and then I can divide by 4, and I get -3/4 is equal to a. And so it's really okay if you just want to leave this in fraction form. If you want to create a decimal, that's okay as well. So then our final answer would be -3/4, and then x plus 1 quantity squared minus 1. Now once again, notice I should have seen from the very beginning with our quadratic opening down that my a value would be negative. So that's just a quick, easy way to at least know if you're on the right track algebraically. All right, so once again, I'm going to let you, all right, do a problem here. All right, so try example four, pause the video, and then turn it back on when you're finished to see how you did. All right, here is the answer to what you should have. All right, so once again, you can see that the vertex is 5, 0, so 5 here, and notice we have a 0 here, and then you should have solved and come up with the fraction 4/5 or 0.8 for your a value. All right, moving on to the next example. Once again, I'm going to do this one with you. All right, so I'm going to start with y equals a. I'm going to come down here and identify my vertex. So I can see that it is 7, 6. All right, so I'm going to have x minus 7 quantity squared plus 6. And then once again, I can see that this quadratic opens down. All right, and so I should know that once I solve, my a value should in fact be negative. All right, and it looks like a good point here would be 8, 5. So I'm going to use that to solve for our a value here. So I'm going to plug 5 in for y. Oops, let me erase that here. There's my eraser. All right, and then we have 5. Whoops, keep doing that wrong here. Let's do this one more time here. Our x value is 8, so I get 8 minus 7 squared in the parentheses there. All right, and if we simplify that, I'm going to have 1 squared. And then once again, 1 squared is 1, so that's 1a. I'm going to subtract 6 here, so I get negative 1 is equal to a, and so that's my a value. It is negative, and we knew that it would be since our quadratic opens down, and so there's my final equation for our quadratic that is graphed here. Okay, so one more final problem, all right, for you to do. All right, so once again, go ahead and pause the video, attempt this, and then turn it back on. All right, so you should have come up with y equals negative 4 times the quantity x plus 2 squared plus 9 for your final answer. All right, so you come to class tomorrow. All right, you should be ready to do some group work based on this skill set, and then we'll continue on to worksheet unit 6-9 for homework. All right, see you in class.